at the smile at this point. This was my parents doing.
Okay, well, welcome everyone to the ScaleForEtail Thursday fixture in your calendar. And it looks like we do have a few people here today. So what would be awesome is if you could just say hi. Okay, we have some people who know the drill and they're telling us where they're from. Oh my God, Ray, you're in Norfolk. Now, we were just
Norfolk, Virginia, or like in the UK?
Norfolk in the UK, which is
okay.
by the sea. It's really beautiful. And in fact, I was there on holiday last week. So I really had a great time there. It's so relaxing. It's so different.
Yeah, I grew up in Norfolk, but not near the sea. So it was just boring.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite rural, right? I mean, you get if you're by the sea, though, it's absolutely amazing. So we've got Sander from London, Nick from North London. Now, North London is something. We've got Caroline from Whitstable, Saul from Nottingham, Ginny from London, of course. Oh, Ray's in Kings Lynn. Okay, not quite by the sea, but nearly, very close. Yvonne from Hertfordshire, Ben on holiday in Spain. Now that is some commitment to come on to a webinar when you're on holiday in Spain. I hope you're all keeping safe. I hope you're all masking yourself properly when you go out. Hi, Haroon from Bangladesh and Chris L from the Philippines. So you can't say we're not international.
Yeah, very cool. We have an office of 14 people in the Philippines.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I've only got one. But I do love my my VA in the Philippines. We support her whole family and have been for 4 years. Obviously, I have other part-time people, but yeah, good. All right. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us and for being here live. It's always so much better when you join live, I think, because you can really get the opportunity to ask Mike a ton of questions. So before we get started, Mike, I don't know if many people are that aware of just how successful you are these days. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you got to the position that you're in today.
Yeah, this story gets longer and longer the older I get. So it used to be a quick conversation, but now it's a long journey. But I quit my job in 2004 and been out doing various things on my own since then. Got started in affiliate marketing, and in 2012 is when I got into e-commerce. We were also domain investors along the way doing affiliate marketing stuff. And one of the domains that we owned was treadmill.com. And one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to start selling treadmills, and didn't know anything about e-commerce, didn't know anything about selling anything online or how to sell treadmills or any of that stuff. But like everything else in my life, I didn't let it stop me. And the rest, as you say, is kind of history. To this point, we've sold treadmill.com now. We had an exit for that in 2015, and then bought a couple other businesses and started a couple other businesses along the way. And since 2015, we've been documenting that entire journey at Ecom Crew. So we've been running a podcast and a blog. We're at episode like 330-ish or something like that on the podcast, and talk about various e-commerce strategies. And our differentiating factor with the podcast and just what we do with Ecom Crew is we're very open. Like most people don't talk about their brands or their products or numbers, and I'm just kind of like an open book. And so everybody knows exactly what we're selling, how we're selling it, what we're doing, the things that we do that fail, the things that we do that win. Talk about the hard stuff as well, because I think people glorify e-commerce as being a super easy way to make money, but the reality is it's not. I love doing it, and I certainly could do something else if I wanted to, but it's not easy all the time. I think it has a challenge every day.
Very valuable to share those failures as well as successes, because people starting out, they don't always realize that it's not plain sailing.
Yeah,
we'll have to deal with those things.
No, there are too many courses, and in fact, I probably fell for it when I got started, only back in 2015. That they sell you the idea that this is easy income on a beat.
Yeah.
and it isn't. It's a very hard slog. I think it requires proper business skills that if you haven't got, you certainly need to learn that along the way. It requires proper systems and processes. And I know that you guys are very, very good at doing that kind of stuff. And you need to think your way through to success. You can't just expect it to pop into your lap.
Yeah, and adapt. I mean, things are very different now than they were in 2015. When we first got started selling on Amazon, I could probably sell a pile of poop and be successful. But now it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many businesses have you sold?
In e-commerce, we sold treadmill.com, we sold ColorIt.com, which was a exit we did last year that if you're interested in knowing more about selling a business, we documented the entire thing, like from the decision process, like we're going to sell it, to going through the process, and then after the process, we interviewed the broker that we did it with and everything. It was pretty interesting. We sold survivalfood.com as well. And I feel like I've sold another e-commerce business. I'm just forgetting about it, but.
And so how many are you now working on?
We have 3 brands right now. So we have IceWraps, WildBaby, and we own tactical.com. It's another one of the domains that we owned. And so tactical is kind of like the thing that a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. Actually, it's a content-based project. Instead of just going right after selling product, we're taking a content-first approach. My belief is that the easy days of selling on Amazon are kind of over. And while we run, IceWraps does mid 7 figures. It's a very, very profitable company, but it's very competitive stuff. And I feel like we're going to be at some point be on this downward trajectory. And there's one of my favorite books. If you haven't heard of it or read it, I highly recommend. It's called "Who Moved My Cheese." It's this little short read, great book, right? And so for me, I am not the wait for the cheese to be gone kind of guy. I am always thinking multiple years ahead. And, I actually think that, while change is frustrating, if you are willing to, adapt to it and be a market mover or leader, it can be an advantage. And so that's the way I look at it. And so we're taking an approach of what can we be doing to plant seeds today to have a different block of cheese when the current block of cheese goes away, and do it in a white hat way. I'm kind of over I'm in my 40s now. I'm over the point of doing the black hat thing of the day and constantly running around reading about the tip and trick or whiz bang thing of the day. People come to webinars looking for the one secret pill, but any secret pill is going to be something that is going to go away or get you banned or something pretty extreme. And so I just don't want to be thinking about that from day to day. I want to be thinking about building a solid business that's going to have longevity, and that's kind of where we're at.
Cool. And just quickly, generally on Amazon, what 3 things would you tell your beginner self today, the stuff that you now know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of adapt it to the times as well, because in 2020. And so I think first things first, don't go after the home run products as your first products. I mean, trying to go into a super ultra competitive niche to start out with is really, really difficult. So I think that the same thing we're going to be talking about here actually with content, it applies. So try to bat singles to start with, and number 2, which wasn't a problem for me, but I think it's applicable to a lot of people in the audience a lot of times, is just get started. I think people using Who Moved My Cheese, hem and haw too much. And so for me, I just do it and get started. But there's a lot to learn on Amazon that I don't know exactly the experience of people that are watching, but if you haven't gotten started yet, there's a ton to learn. You got to figure out how to create your Amazon account and how to send inventory and how to label things, how to create your listing, how to do PPC, all these different things that, are just kind of overwhelming to begin with. And so just getting started is really important. Then the other thing is that I learned along the way for something that people that are more advanced is that, it's a thin margin business, and where the money is all made, at least in our world, is in logistics. Just getting better at, and once you get to a certain point, focusing on logistics and thinking about that from an early stage instead of figuring out later when you've already spent a bunch of money. And so like you can consolidate shipments and manufacturing and think about things in a way that makes it way more efficient to get products here, wherever here is. And for me, that's in the United States, but you might be shipping to the UK, or maybe you live in the UK and you're shipping to the US. But whatever it is, shipping's expensive, and getting things into Amazon can be quite costly. And so we've gotten really good at being efficient, getting stuff directly from our manufacturer directly into Amazon, skipping 3PLs, having an efficient amount of inventory. And so that's something I wish that we focused on a little bit earlier, because we would have been a lot more profitable a lot earlier.
But with the IPI score, can you really afford to completely avoid 3PLs?
Yeah, well, I mean, who knows where we're at today with IPI score? I mean, like we have accounts that have a very strong IPI. We have products that are top 10 in their category on Amazon, selling hundreds of units per day and being limited in the amount that we can ship in, even though we're over 500. Yeah. So, I don't know where things are today as of like July 23rd, 2020. It's a really weird world, or as I guess maybe like July 10th, whenever they announced this. When I first saw the emails, like, yeah, whatever, like it doesn't really apply to us because we're really good at this and it doesn't matter. But then we went to send in another container of stuff and we're told that we couldn't do it. And I was just like, it's literally something we're selling hundreds of units a day, that we have like 35 days of supply in Amazon, and they're limiting us on how much we can get in there. I'm hoping that this is a short-term thing. My guess is of what's happening is that they're just completely overwhelmed. You look at how many people they're hiring, how quickly they're growing. They're about to release their earnings this week. I think they're going to just have another crazy quarter. And so if you read the tea leaves and like just read all the information that's there, in the midst of all this, they're having to deal with a pandemic. And so like, how do you socially distance employees or keep them safe? They're having to retool like all their facilities. And that's not a small project when you think of the scope of Amazon. And so, where the loading dock might have had hundreds of worker bees like scurrying around constantly, just, getting containers unloaded and putting things on shelves or robots, they're having to like completely redo the way that they receive product and the way that they do everything. And so my feeling is that they're going to figure this out, especially before the holidays, and things will settle down a little bit. And so this is their way of just like really putting the brakes on, trying to like, it's going to make our lives more difficult, but they're putting the brakes on just the sheer number of things that were coming in to be able to just keep the lights on, and not like have the wheels fall off the bus. And so I think they'll figure that out. I hope they will. I have faith that they will.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's pretty obvious, both the pandemic as well as the high growth that they've seen in certain categories. Like if you're selling face masks, then obviously you must be selling hundreds and hundreds of units a day, or other equipment that's really related to the pandemic, not to mention some other categories that might still be doing really well. But it is tough because they don't really give us sometimes enough time to plan and prepare ourselves. And it just feels like the rug suddenly got yanked out from under your feet.
I mean, that is the downside of selling on Amazon. It's it's not a matter of if, but when, these types of things happen. And so, this is the danger of building your business in another, person's sandbox, basically. And something I'm very cognizant of and think about, all the time. And so it's one of the reasons, another thing that we're going to be talking about today is important. This gives you additional avenues to make money and to drive traffic that I think is really important, because I do think, there's an economic cycle that happens in every business, in every industry. I've seen it happen, unfortunately, in a couple of the other businesses that I've run up to this. And when you have a new business, and they're not really profitable yet, or they're just kind of getting started, they need you way more than you need them. And by that, like they need affiliates or they need partners or whatever it is. And at some point, that flips. And so like now Amazon, like you need Amazon way, 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 way more than they need you. And it's not really the best way to build a business. But like you can't ignore the money that can be made on Amazon either. And so for me, like I'm constantly juggling and balancing, these set of facts, which I know in these circumstances, like when someone gets this big and powerful and they have an opportunity to screw you and to make more money, they will. And so that's what's going to happen and continue to happen. It's already happened quite a bit. But how long are you willing to put up with that pain for? I still think we have multiple years left of like really good runway here. So I'm not trying to paint a picture of doom and gloom, but I do think that the Who Moved My Cheese story is very applicable here.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you. Let's get on with the meat of the presentation, as it were. So we're going to hand over to you.
Cool.
And audience, so this is to all the audience. If you have questions and you haven't been to one of these before, do put them in the questions box. You see there's a chat box and a questions box on the right-hand side of your screen. That'll just make it so much easier for us to make sure that we address everything that's on your mind and give you all the answers that you're here for. Okay, over to you,
cool.
Mike.
All right. Well, first off, excuse the background, please. I'm at my mother-in-law's house. We drove across the country to visit her for her 70th birthday, so I'm stuck in her bedroom here. And I keep on being told that it looks like I'm in my childhood bedroom presenting since I've been here, so it's kind of funny. Usually I have like a nice set and everything. I'm particular with this stuff, but hopefully you'll ignore that and look at the content and get some value out of this today.
Don't worry, it just looks natural.
Yeah, it's true. It's a real bedroom.
Yeah.
So, I love answering questions. So, I typically try to do those at the end. But if there's anything that comes up, feel free to interrupt, and I'll stop and answer them as we go. This should take probably about like 45 minutes to an hour. There's a lot of slides here. So let's get started. So let me just mention, I am talking about how to create content for e-commerce. And so that's what the overarching presentation is about today. And being able to do it without having a subject matter expert on board is kind of like the sub part of this. So I mentioned we have an office in the Philippines. We have 4 full-time content writers there along with other employees. And so they do almost all of our content, and including making this presentation. They do all kinds of stuff for me. But I give them an outline, they put together the slides. So they do all kinds of cool stuff. Got a cough again. I might need to go get a cough drop. I had pneumonia back in January. I thought it was COVID. I finally got the antibody test and it wasn't COVID. So, but I still have the remnants of a cough.
Oh dear. Well, just take it easy. Take a drink if you need to. Don't worry about it.
Got my drink. We're good. All right. So in this webinar, I'm going to be talking about how to write high-ranking content that drives traffic to your e-commerce site, and that can be either your own Shopify store or to Amazon or to eBay or whatever your e-commerce site is. And everyone, that might be a little bit different for everybody. And these are strategies that we've used. Like I told you, we talk about our real life examples. This is a strategy that we've used to grow our content site, tactical.com, which is kind of at a crossroads this year of I think exploding, breaking out, and becoming parabolic. We're putting a lot of effort into the site this year. We're going to be doing a complete redesign and working on like email capture and aesthetics. But we've up to this point just been worried about putting content up there and getting rankings and worrying about the rest later. I'm a big proponent of, we're small businesses. You can only focus on so much at a time and just get started, as I was talking about earlier. So, our strategy with Tactical was like just to get started, just to start rating content, just get this stuff up there, just get ranking. And when we have traffic, we can worry about the rest later. And we're kind of at that point, which is awesome. So with Tactical, over the last couple of years, since we started it from ground zero, we've got 120,000 visitors, 230,000 sessions. But the thing that I'm most impressed with now, and most of those numbers have all come in the last few months, is like, again, it's just been this like parabolic ride up. We rank for 1,700 keywords. These slides are out of date. It's actually up to 6,000 now. In the last couple weeks, we've really exploded, which has been awesome. 2,100 backlinks. Another stat that's really important here is our average time on page is 5 minutes and 25 seconds. an astronomical number if you think about it. And so what this means is like not only are we getting visitors, but people are actually consuming this content, which is really important. You don't want people just to come. You want them to consume and become fans. And that's an important part. We've also saved thousands of dollars in paid advertising costs. So if you think about what that traffic is worth, we've saved thousands of dollars in paid advertising costs and generated $147,000 in sales directly for TechNiner.com's or TechNiner's products on Amazon, to a point where we're now running out of products that we've launched because they're becoming really successful with this strategy. And the thing is, we've done this all without a subject matter expert on board. And that's the thing I really want to emphasize is like our strategy is to be able to put out content in a cost-effective manner. Subject matter experts can cost 10x or more of the strategy that we're currently using. And so, again, we've hired people in the Philippines that don't know anything about tactical gear or don't know anything about ice packs. That's our other site that we do a lot with. And we're quite successful in doing that. And I'm going to be talking about that strategy in here. So I've broken this presentation out into the 4 sections. Like I think that bite-sized chunks are really good. So the first phase is building out the brand foundations. This is kind of the boring stuff. Please stick with me. It's important. Then we get into the fun stuff of picking topics and keyword research and content types and frameworks, and then some best practices when it comes to writing. And when I say the first phase, this building brand foundations is boring. It's boring to the point that even I skipped it and regretted it later. And so I implore you to not follow my lead and be a dummy like me and actually take the time to figure out what it is that you're actually trying to do rather than just starting to do. Even though I am a believer, again, in getting started, if you take just a few minutes to plan, it can have some pretty beneficial effects. So first things first, you got to know your audience. You should know who you're writing to. And I know this might sound elementary and trivial, but knowing who you're talking to is quite important. You're going to communicate with different people in very different ways. Demographics are incredibly important, like the age of people you're talking to, their gender, where they live. My stupid American puns aren't going to work very well with this audience, and I need to call an elevator a lift today and a trunk a boot. And so it's important to know like who you're talking to. It might, again, sound trivial, but this stuff is actually quite important. And so in the United States specifically, you think about things like if you're talking to someone who's in rural Alabama versus someone who lives in Manhattan, very, very different situation there in terms of location. Status is also important. Using that exact same example, some really rich person living in downtown Manhattan is going to have a very different mindset and a way of thinking about the world than someone in Alabama who is living in poverty. And so this is also very, very important. Psychographics, also super important. So things like attitudes and their values, think about like Democrat versus Republican type stuff, very, very different types of values and things that they care about, very important. Their pain points, their role in making buying decisions. Is your audience a 13-year-old kid? Is it, or is it to the actual person with the purse strings? This type of stuff is important. The sources of information that they consume, again, to use politics stuff, if they're watching Fox News versus CNN, or reading the Washington Post versus what's the UK newspaper, that tabloid, that's the really famous tabloid. I forgot the name of it. I'm having a brain fart. That's on all the street. Thank you. The Express Mail. So if you're reading that versus other things, obviously where you get your information actually is really important. And this type of information is available. We'll talk a little bit about how to get it. And it's very important to be able to know as you're going into this. So what I recommend doing is creating a customer avatar. And again, I know it's exciting to want to just go right. And I advocate, just get started, obviously. But if you can just take a minute and create this customer avatar and really understand who you're writing to, it's going to really make a big difference, especially if the person you're writing to or that's doing the writing isn't you. It's someone like in the Philippines, as I mentioned. This is really important steps to really help them understand who they're writing to. And so I see some questions here about the slides going to be available. I've already provided them, and they'll definitely be made available. This slide specifically, I think, is good to have, just to go take this and feel free to use it and fill in all the blanks. Age, gender, marital status, challenges, all these different things, the types of magazines they're reading, the conferences they're going to, the level of education they have. All this is like super, super important to just kind of fill out and fully understand who you're writing to. And now that we've done this with Tactical, or since we've done this with Tactical, we've seen way, way, way more success than when we just started randomly writing crap that, a lot of which now isn't really applicable to the overall strategy for Tactical, because we've kind of picked a survival and prepper niche, and that person's very different than a camping or fishing avatar. And so we want to make sure that we're writing to the right person. Another thing that's important is to use a distinct and consistent tone. You might have multiple people writing. You might have one person who's writing in different ways at different times. That doesn't work very well. You want to have a very consistent tone. You pick a way that the type of tone you're writing for, and the types of things that you're saying, the types of, jokes or whatever you might be making, and just be kind of consistent with that. Because if you take an approach, again, I'm just to use politics again, if you're taking a tone of right-wing type politics, and all of a sudden you have like some left-leaning tones in there, like this is a way to really turn people off, especially in today's age of like very polarized things, which is very important to make sure that you're consistent. So, you think about like the way that each one of your brands says hello. And so like we have different types of brands here. We have a tactical brand, which is going to be a prepper, survivalist person that thinks the world's going to come to an end at any moment, and they need to be prepared with their bunker. And that person's very different than like a WildBaby customer who's probably a suburbanite, probably fairly well off. And, we sell these stuffed animals that do pretty well. And IceWraps is a totally different situation. Like it doesn't really matter what your background is, your socioeconomic background, or any of those types of things. If you have pain, that's one thing that just goes across everything, right? Like everyone's probably had pain at some point in their life. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or rich or poor or Democrat or Republican, any of these types of things. You just want to get it solved. And so this stuff is very, very important to understand. All right, so now that we're kind of past the really boring stuff, let's start getting into things that I love talking about, that I find to be really fun. And so phase 2, which is you're picking topics and doing keyword research. So first thing that's really good is finding the influencers in your niche. You're going to start writing about something, look to who is already writing it. Very great place to start. I think, I would look at them as your future competitors, right? And so using them as a place to start is a great thing to do. And so we use a tool called Ahrefs, A-H-R-E-F-S. There's also SEMrush. There's other tools out there as well. I don't know that anyone's better than the other. Some of them have better functionality at certain things, and others have better functionality at other things. We've just been using Ahrefs for multiple years, and that's what we use. And so with their tool, you can just go to type in a keyword like prepping, and then see who's ranking. And so the prepare.com, the preppingguide.com, wired.com, secretsofsurvival.com, etc. These are the people out there that are already ranking for these things. And so this is a great place to start, to look at like who's already out there and to understand the level of content, where the bar currently is, what you have to write to, which is going to be way, way, way above that bar to get rankings, but just to see what's out there and start to get ideas. And then you can go to one of these sites and look at their top pages and see what they're ranking for. All this all this data is public. And so if you did this with tactical.com right now, we're ranking for a bunch of stuff in how to build tarp shelters and how to build a bunker and all these different types of things. So you can see what we rank for. It's all public data. Something you got to just be comfortable with. Don't start doing this if you want everything to be private, because it's never going to happen. The world is a pretty public place at this point. But this site here, they're ranking for things like parts of a gun, and survival supplies list, and survival food list, building underground bunkers, and WTSHTF, which stands for what to do when shit hits the fan, survival. And so this is like an acronym that people will type in. And so for us, like, we've just made it a point not to talk about guns, I think that it's kind of a third rail that we want to stay away from. This isn't really like necessarily a political thing. This is just a business decision, because a lot of advertisers can feel differently at different days about guns. So we would just eliminate that particular topic as a for instance. But survival food list sounds pretty cool to write about, which we've done. And building a bunker sounds pretty cool. There's nothing really that objectionable about that. You're not going to get your Facebook ad account banned because you're talking about that. But depending on, especially in the United States, every state has a different rule about guns, and Facebook, depending on their mood, feels differently about it, and Google. So we just decided to stay away from things like that because we don't want those repercussions to happen down the road. But here's a lot of really great ideas immediately within minutes of things we could write about in these niches.
One question for you, Mike. The
Sure.
value column there, is that some estimation of buyer intent or by Ahrefs?
So, sorry, that broke up in the beginning. Say that one more time.
The value column on the table.
Oh,
is that
it's volume.
buyer intent?
This volume right here?
The value.
The value. Sorry, over there on the left. Yeah. So this is going to be the traffic multiplied by like the cost per click if you were to use AdWords. And so like if you were to rank for this, that would be worth $46. And if you were to rank for this, this would be worth $1,200 and basically free traffic.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So there's other really good gold mines. You can look at LSI keywords, YouTube, Reddit, other forums, just to like get ideas for things to write about. Because when you first start writing about something like this, the first 5 or 10 things are super easy to write about or figure out. But like pretty quickly, you're going to start to run out of ideas or hit a wall. And so these are all ways to figure out what you want to come up with for ideas. So the next stage is keyword research. And so in this phase, this is actually probably one of the most important things of this presentation to come away with, is for me to instill in your mind to like not try to go after the home runs. I already kind of talked about this with Amazon. The same thing applies here. And so you want to focus on what's called medium to long tail keywords. And so a long tail keyword would be shoes, or sorry, a short tail head keyword would be shoes. Medium keyword might be men's running shoe. And long tail keyword might be like men's size 9 tennis shoe, something that just has more words. And so focusing on something that's more niche, that's going to get you less traffic, have less traffic, sorry, like have less interest, but be actually obtainable is the point. And so the way that you can do this is to go into Ahrefs. And again, you can type in something like prepping. And we have, you can see right here, this keyword difficulty box is highlighted. Will filter based on things that have a 0 to 20 difficulty score. And this column here, KD, shows that 4, 11, 0, 16. And then the keywords that come up that are potential are prepped, get home bag, dirty dozen bunker forms, survivalism, prepper magazine, prepper food. And so now here's where you have to use some logic and some brain cells. You don't want to try to go after dirty dozen bunker form or prepper magazine. Those are brand names. So don't try to go after that. But prepper food is a great idea. And get home bag is actually something for, again, for prepping and doomsday stuff. You have something in your car to be able to get home and get back to your stash or whatever. And so these are things that are great to work on. And you'll notice they have a very low difficulty score, the KD, keyword difficulty. And so I've been trying to use analogies to make this understandable. And I used the World of Warcraft analogy the other day. If anyone's ever played that, I played it for a bit. But you enter this world as like a level 1 player. And as you play, you get experience points and you level up, and you can fight other characters. Now, if you're like a level 4 character, you might be able to fight like a level 6 character and get lucky and win. But if you fight the level 99 character, he's going to like decimate you. He's just going to like look over and like blink, and you're just like, you're gone. And the same thing like happens here, right? I mean, and I'm not sure this is a great analogy or not. I use some sports analogies of like, if you're playing baseball or in your guys' case, football, and you're in the minor leagues, you're not going to like just go directly from the minor leagues to the majors, or if you're in the UFC, which I think is popular there, you're not gonna, if you're MMA, you're not gonna immediately go fight in the UFC, which is like the premier league. The fighters are gonna just like whip your butt. And the same thing really applies here. And the reason I'm like harping on this is because people immediately want to rank for like tactical or, or shoes or whatever it is. Like, and it's not going to happen. Like, there is no chance that you're going to rank, for that type of thing. You might think of something like water filter. Like, you're not going to rank for that. Brita is going to rank for that. And like the big companies are going to rank for that. You have no chance. 5 years from now, 3 years, whatever from now, if you keep at this, then you have a chance. But to start with, you want to go after these low difficulty keywords, get traffic, get attention, start getting backlinks, level up. Then you can like go after the 20 to 25 level stuff and continue to level up. Meanwhile, there's all this goldmine traffic out here. Some of these long tail keywords get just as much traffic as some of the big whale traffic things do. And also, the thing to also remember is the more long tail things are, the more people know what they're looking for. The more it's going to convert, the more interest they're going to have, the more likelihood you're going to have of providing value for what they search for. If someone searches for, men's size 9 tennis shoe, and that's like all you have on the page, and you have an article that really gets into the best men's shoe for size 9, you're going to actually provide them value. If you rank for shoes and they found you that way, there's like a 3% chance you're going to provide them value. And it's, even though it might help your ego to have all this traffic, it isn't necessarily worth a lot to you. This is a very much similar to in e-commerce, we talk a lot about how revenue is vanity and profits are sanity. And so, it's really fun to say like I'm a $10 million seller, and people pound their chest all the time about this. I really wish people would talk about how much money they actually make. We make 20% net profit in our business. That's what I'm most proud of. We actually make money. Like, I don't really give a crap about like what the top line is, as much as we support our family and actually make money at what we do. And that's what's really important. And so this is the same thing that applies here is, are you actually able to provide value to the traffic, to the people that are coming there? So ultimately it becomes worth something to you someday, and not just something you can go tell your friends, I get 10,000 people visiting my website a day. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about the types of content you can write and the frameworks that you can use when writing this content. And actually, this might be a good time for me to pause. I have someone bothering me here that's about the next thing I'm doing. And I just need to let them know I'm in a webinar to leave me alone, because he hasn't stopped.
No problem. That's fine. I have to say, this is fascinating so far. That's great. Cool. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I just said, I'm in a webinar, leave me alone. Okay, so phase 3, content types and frameworks. Unlike normally, like when we do this on stage, when I leave my phone off the stage, I can't be bothered. It was like sitting here buzzing nonstop, so it was like bothering me and coming up on my screen, so I couldn't like get them to leave me alone. All right, phase 3, content types and frameworks. So we love listicles, expanded listicles, so things like how to build a tarp shelter, and here's 26 configurations for your next outdoor trip. And so what we're doing here is we're not necessarily writing anything. And this is where, this value of being able to get people to write content that aren't necessarily subject matter experts comes in. And so anybody that, I could go write a listicle about female hygiene products. I mean, I obviously know nothing about that and don't want to know anything about it. But if I was forced to go do it, I can go find articles out there that would provide value to other women, and put together an article that actually provided value, because I've taken the time to do the research and find things that would be good in a listicle. And so that's one of the things that we do, one of the strategies we take. And so we'll have them go out and spend a couple of days of doing research and looking at other content, and then put together all these different tarp shelter configurations and include videos and stuff, and give credit obviously back to the people who originally wrote the content. But there's a lot of value in roundup type content where you're helping people get through the research that they would have had to do much quicker. And so what took us hours or days to put together, we're providing somebody a 15-minute read that gets them the same information. That actually has quite a bit of value, and they will come away with a positive feeling about what they just read, and leave positive comments and share it with other people. Infographics are another really great type of content to write. And so we've put together now dozens of infographics that, and a couple of them eventually will become viral. You know, you never know quite exactly which one it's going to be, but we have infographics about all kinds of things. We have one that we just put out that's doing really well about what to put in your bug out bag. And so we have like different categories, you know, food and personal safety, shelter, you know, different categories, and we list all the different things you will need. We have this one that's done well, how to build a tarp shelter. And so we show in an infographic how to build a tarp shelter and the different ways you can do it. There's like an A-frame where you can like, you know, just kind of hunker underneath of it or whatever. And so just having an infographic of that and giving people a visual cue of how to do that, plus they'll copy and share your infographic or a link to you, and it includes your logo, hopefully, and eventually over time, these types of things do really, really well. So I'm a big fan of infographics. This is not, you know, we have not invented the infographic, and so this is just a strategy that's been around for a while that still works quite well. Ultimate guides, and so this is something that does take a little bit more expertise, but we'll have something like bushcraft skills, how to survive and thrive in the wilderness when shit hits the fan. You know, this article is done really, really well, and we'll put together like a really big guide that kind of talks about all this stuff that we'll use ancillary articles that we'll write first, and then put the ultimate guide together at the end that will like link out to all these other articles. And so it becomes like a 10-part thing a lot of times where there's just so much content and we overwhelm the internet and Google with such good content about all this that ultimately we rank well for the topics that we go after. Review articles serve two purposes. First of all, this is really where the meat and potatoes of this whole thing comes together. If you can rank for what is the best tactical backpack, or what is the best credit card multi-tool, which is, you know, kind of what's depicted here in these pictures, this is where you're going to make your money. All the other stuff is going to make you money, but like this is what really makes you money. Because if you can rank for what is the best tactical backpack, and you can do that before you've even launched the product, and this is our strategy for everything we've done with tactical. So we'll rank first for, let's say, we don't actually rank for this particular term, but when we do rank for what's the best tactical backpack, which will happen eventually, then we'll go develop a tactical backpack. We'll make ours the #1 recommendation. And instead of having those links go off to our competitors, it'll go off to us. And we know at that point already what we're selling because we already have the links. We have affiliate links on our website. And so we know that we're selling credit card multi-tools already. And we can just now put ours in there and sell ours instead. And this is a way to create a really unfair advantage on Amazon. You know, this outside traffic that we send really boosts our listings to the point where, again, by using the strategy this year, it's caught us off guard with being able to just keep inventory in stock. And it caught us off guard because we aren't necessarily selling hundreds of products through our links every day. Rather, we're selling 3 to 5 or maybe 7, you know, and we're still, you know, kind of just getting started. It isn't a tremendous amount of traffic or revenue generated through these links yet, but that's enough to turn the scales for Amazon. If you look at what they're doing, they see outside traffic as a really big upvote and indicator of like this product probably is more important than everything else that we have on our site in this space because other people are talking about it. It makes sense. It's hard to game the system here. And so we're putting the effort into creating the listing or the articles and getting traffic over there. And those extra 3 to 5 sales increase your ranking for all your organic keywords. And by having higher keyword rankings, you get more sales. And by getting more sales, your keyword rankings go up. And this is like what's called the, you know, momentum platform that you know, the flywheel effect that Amazon has. And so these little, you know, amounts of traffic that we're sending that only convert into a couple of sales actually magnify into dozens or more sales per day. And so again, things that we thought we'd never rank for, never be you know, super competitive in, have really caught us off guard and in a great way. And so the strategy definitely works. And so these review articles are really important. One more thing about this, there's tons of review articles out there. We've all been on them and they all suck. Like 99.9% of them, they're awful. It's just complete crap. Like they're just, I mean, as worthless can be. And either you realize it or you don't. Some people, you know, think that they're doing research like, oh, well, this website recommended this product, and so it must be really good. the reality is they've never touched the products. They just go on Amazon, they take their image, they write a few words that they found in the description, and then they post these articles, and they're basically worthless. What we do is actually buy all the products, and we actually test all the products, and we take all new photography and video and really understand what it is that we're working with here and what products out there are good and bad. And this is actually serves a couple different purposes. First of all, we now have the best review articles about these subjects on the internet, because very few people are taking the time to do this. There are a few out there. You get like, the Popular Sciences of the world and Consumer Reports. Some of these sites actually go through the effort and do this stuff, but most of the affiliate sites out there, they're just not putting in the effort. They don't care, but we do. We care both from the perspective of like, I want to rank number one. I want to provide good value to people, but it's also a really good product research exercise. And so as we're doing this, we know eventually we want to launch a tactical backpack, or we eventually want to launch credit card multi-tool. Well, when we're doing all this, we take notes and we kind of compare, okay, well, like this product has these features that we like, and this product has these features that we like. This is obviously like could be improved. And we know all this stuff ahead of time. And so when it comes time to launch the product, we've already done all this research and we know exactly what it is that we want to launch. And we want to, you don't want to just launch a crappy product. You can, but that's not our style. We want to launch the best possible product that we can in the space. Even in these competitive Me Too type niches, you can still make a better product. It doesn't have to be, patented or reinventing the wheel, just enough that, it's better than a lot of the other products. If people are complaining that the strap's breaking on this product, in all the reviews, just make a better strap. Put an extra set of threads in there and make it better. All right, enough about that. All right, number 4, writing best practices. Let's talk about some things that are important when you're actually writing these articles. So first things first, you got to start strong. Every one of us has diminished attention spans now. I never had a good attention span to begin with. I've always been ADD, but holy crap, is it like way worse now in the advent of like all the technology that we have. If you have not grabbed my attention and convinced me that what you've written, no matter how good it might be, is actually going to be engaging and worth my time in like the first couple of seconds, I'm probably going to hit back and leave. I am not alone in this. Lots of people, so I blame TikTok. That's awesome. That is definitely a part of the problem. And so it's important in the very beginning to write something that's going to grab people's attention, right? And so this, if you look at the articles we've written, we really focus on this. We use the skyscraper technique. This is Brian Dean's stuff, backlinko.com, one of my favorite SEO blogs out there. He came up with this thing called the skyscraper technique. And so the skyscraper technique is, first of all, going to be like this really long form piece of content. That's why it's called a skyscraper. But also you're going to make it 10 times better. And so what we tell our writers before they start writing the first piece of content for us is, let's just say we're going to write about a get home bag, and you type in that search into Google. If someone's typing in that search in and they look at the first result and they don't get the answers they're looking for, think about how you use Google. You're going to click back, and then you're going to click the second result, and you're going to look through that result. If it doesn't give you all the information that you still need, you're going to go down to the third result, and so forth and so on. Very rarely do you make it past the first page when it comes to this. But the reason people are clicking back is because all these articles above you leave something to be desired. We are not going to leave anything to be desired. We are going to answer every possible question, crush them with information, and never want them to click back and go to the next result. And Google looks at this as a part of their ranking algorithm. They're looking at things they can do that cannot be gamed. You cannot game tens of thousands of people searching this a month and going about their business and finding content. If they're constantly bouncing off your page and clicking back and going to the next article, and they don't click back after the next thing they get to, that article is going to go to the top. That's one of the big ranking factors for Google. They're really smart with this type of thing. You can get all the backlinks you want and scam things as much as you want, worry about your on-page, keyword density, all these things that do matter, but like don't matter as much as this. And so the end result is write the best darn piece of content that's ever been written about this subject, like hands down, if you're going to write about it. Quality over quantity. It's way more important to like write something that's the best ever and do it once a month and like post some crap every day. Satisfy the user intent. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but like craft the content depending on where the reader is on their journey. And so like, you know, you don't have to sell somebody something with every single search. You know, a lot of things, you know, that can be written about the tactical space, they're not going to buy anything right that moment. They don't have a desire to buy something, but they're your future customer. And so you can satisfy their intent at that moment, answer their question. You know, let's just say it's something that's about fishing. You know, where's the best place to catch salmon in Alaska is not going to yield you any sales because they want to go fishing in Alaska for salmon. Eventually, they're going to make a search for what's the best lure to catch salmon. That is your opportunity to make money. But don't try to sell them something in in a time where you're just trying to answer a question. So satisfy that user intent. Don't be greedy. Like, don't worry about making money at every moment of every day. You know, hopefully they come to your site. You've got them pixeled now. You have some value. You know that they're potentially a future customer. Hopefully something on that page offers a good lead magnet that gets them to give you their email address. And over time, you can communicate with them through email, and eventually you'll get a sale. And so think about things from that perspective. It's really important because if you're trying to sell and you're too salesy, people aren't going to want to listen. They're going to click back and go to the next thing. Really important. You got to make it readable. You know, you're not writing books. Books belong in bookstores while they're still around, or libraries. And so a Stephen King novel is written in a very different manner than blog content. Very different manner than successful blog content. Nobody's going to sit there and read 5,000 words of just text, 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 paragraph break, text, 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 paragraph break. It's just not going to happen. So you want to break things up in a scrollable and readable format. Let people be able to scroll through your 5,000 word article, read 70 words of it, and actually get almost as much value out of it. And they'll stop and read the important stuff if they need to. But headers and bucket brigades and cliffhangers, like, you know, so, you know, we write 1 or 2 sentences, 3 sentences, break, 1 or 2 sentences, break, dot, 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 you know, get people to continuously, like, even though they don't really want to read more necessarily, you're kind of pulling them into the next sentence because it's just like, I wonder what happens next. I don't know how many television shows I've watched where, you know, this effect happened where like, I can't stand this flipping show. I hate it so much, but like, I got to see what happens next. I got to see the next episode. And so do the same thing here, you know, include pictures and videos and infographics and all the things I talked about. Keep it interesting, make it so it's readable, keep people scrolling down. Another thing that Google looks at is how much of the page have you consumed. And so if you can get people to the bottom of your article, you have won. It's really important. And so work on that. Use questions as headers. So people, a lot of times, I mean, things that they're searching for on Google are questions. And so if you're putting questions in your H2 tags or your H3 tags or your headers on your page, so like, you know, what are the, like, let's just say it's like, where's the best places to fish? And then it's like, you have, what are the best places to fish in Alaska? What are the best places to fish in Tennessee? It's like the questions or the headers. And then you kind of get into that. Those questions get picked up in Google, and also voice search is becoming more and more prominent. But put the full question in there. People, you know, the vast majority of things that people are putting into Google are questions. If you think about, again, what is it that you're searching for? It's how, why, where. Typically, you know, it's like what or what. You know, what is the weather today in London? Like, what is the best place to fish? How do you put in a light bulb? All these different types of questions are what you're typically typing in. Very rarely is it something that isn't a question. So try to put a lot of questions and answer those questions within your article. Those are things that eventually you're going to rank for. Embed videos. I talked about this already, but it's important to mention this again. And so, you know, most people that are watching this don't have a content team like we do and don't have the time or the wherewithal to put together video content. It's expensive and takes a lot of time, as I mentioned. But you can use other people's video. And so, you know, if you're putting together, again, what's the best place to fish in Alaska, you can go find someone that's fishing the Kenai River and put a video in there about that. It's their video, but it provides value to the piece of content that you're writing at that moment. Really important, keeps them on the page longer. How the hell do we have a 5-minute and 30-second on-page time? Well, this is how. And Google loves it. They're like, man, someone's coming to the site and really sucking up what these people are writing and putting together. This is super important. and works really, really well. So use other people's videos if you don't have your own video. SEO housekeeping, this kind of stuff at the end here. Optimize your meta description, your alt tags, your image sizes, your page load times. These things are important. Again, you can look at like backlinko.com or other SEO places. Didn't want to make this a SEO presentation. This stuff is important. It isn't as important as just like getting started writing. You can always go back and change this stuff later. But it is important still to have good meta description, good alt tags, or to have alt tags on your images. Alt tags are actually, the reason they exist is for blind people. And so if they are using one of the machines that reads to you, it'll read what the tag is on the image. And if you don't have alt tags on there, then they don't know what the image is. And so Google looks at this as an SEO indicator, and it's important to put keywords and explain what the images are, and put alt tags on your images. The image sizes are important. You don't want to put a 3,000 by 3,000 pixel image on your page that rescales down to 600 through WordPress. Actually chop the image down to 600 before you put it up there. Run it through tiny JPEG and optimize the image for page load time, which is really important. And so images can really slow down your page load time. Page load time is a very important factor. Again, these are all things you can always go back and work on later. The most important part is to write the darn content, write good content, do the things I talked about, let it start indexing. You can go back and change this stuff later. Don't let all these details about SEO and the technical stuff stop you from even getting started, because then you'll never write any content. All right. Right about an hour, as I mentioned, or 45. I think we had a little bit of an interest, so about 45 minutes. Hopefully you guys found that valuable. If you do have any questions, be happy to take them and chit chat for a bit.
Yeah, excellent. Great stuff. So we do have questions, and Christian is going to run through them for you.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the one in the chat. So Adam's just clarifying. So you're saying you can do research on any topic and provide value, but which sites do you go to do that research? And my understanding is it's the influencers in the niche, and it's the other sites that are already ranking.
Yeah. Yep. So you can look at other sites that are ranking. There's also things like BuzzSumo, that'll go out and find all the content for you for a particular keyword. But it's actually pretty easy to find the other stuff out there. You can just do a Google search yourself and start going through, the top 30 results. The key is not to just include that stuff just because it's there. You want to read it yourself and make sure that you're providing the valuable stuff, because as good as Google is, it's only so good. It does rank a bunch of crap still. And so you want to help filter that out and provide the valuable stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I found it myself. I've gone through something similar recently. It takes very long to go from not a content expert or not knowing anything about the subject to being able to write intelligently. If you spend a couple of hours doing research, or if you have a team member spends half a day, then they will then start to know something about subject matter and understand both the language to use as well as what to write about. So,
yep, absolutely.
Okay. How long does it take for your team to put together a quality article, and what sort of budget do you consider in terms of time or money for those pieces of content?
Yeah, I mean, we pay our content people an average of $600 a month full time. Again, in the Philippines, so the cost of labor there is significantly lower, and they're putting out like 4 to 6 long form pieces of content per month, plus some other content. But if you kind of boil things down, each article is costing us $75 to $100 to put out, which is very, very low, compared to what it would cost if you had a Western writer put the stuff together. You'd probably be looking at probably $600 to write an equally good a piece of content in the West, which is just not sustainable, in my opinion, especially when you're getting started. Now we can probably afford it, but this is going to be an investment. I didn't really talk about that here in this presentation, but it's a good time to mention this. I mean, this type of project is exactly like investing, for the long haul. If anybody that's on the webinar is kind of versed with compounding interest and just long-term investing,
yeah.
If you're investing 100 pounds a month, it doesn't really seem like much. And at the end of the year, you look at your account and you only have 1,200 pounds plus maybe 50 pounds interest. You got 1,250 pounds. it's not really all that exciting, but over the course of like 30 years, that's hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it really, really adds up. And at some point, it becomes parabolic because your interest starts to compound, and the amount of money you have at the end is quite large. And so SEO in doing this is actually the same exact concept, but it's on a much more compressed timeline. And so for the first year and a half, you're pretty much just writing to yourself and your mom, and very few people are really actually consuming the content. And slowly but surely, you're getting some rankings and stuff. But you're definitely spending way more than you're making. You're rating. We invested, $1,200 a month, let's say, into this content. Didn't make any of that money back really in the first year, but now, it's really starting to pay off. And so if you can have the discipline to continue to do it and pick a number that you can feel comfortable with, and continue to put the content out on a consistent basis over a long period of time, it will do well. Like, I guarantee it. Like, this is not theory or maybes. If you have really good content, if you're writing the best content on the subject over long periods of time, it's going to do well. And so like Tactical bats way, way, way above its weight. Like, I mean, if you look at its domain ranking, I think it's like 8, not even that high, but we're ranking for lots of stuff. And like, if you really look at the organic chart, it's exploding. And so, it can be done. And this is starting from scratch, relatively recently. And then IceWraps, is another story. I mean, we get about, 10x the traffic on IceWraps than we do on Tactical, because IceWraps has been around for a long time, and anything we write just kind of instantly starts to rank. But, it's an investment in your future. And I think that, best time to start is yesterday. The second best time is today.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's very helpful, just to give that idea of the kind of quantity which somebody can produce in a month. I think it's easy for people to assume that, I'll just hire someone, they'll knock out an article every hour, and I'll have, 100 articles at the end of the month. But that's not how it works.
You'll have 100 crappy articles at the end of the month. Yeah.
Okay, next question. If you don't consider yourself an expert in the niche, how do you make sure the content you put together is great and connects with the audience? That's similar to before, I think. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like we kind of covered that here, and to a lot of extent. I mean, first of all, we have an incredible team lead over in the Philippines. Like, I spent at least a full year, like, kind of training and mentoring, and now she kind of gets it. But we were filling out that avatar first and really understanding who it is that we're writing to. We're consuming a lot of other content in the space before we even really get started. And anybody that we hire new, like, we're investing months into them before they're really putting out any type of output that's really valuable to us. They're basically, at least for the first month, they're in just full on training mode. We put a lot of time into our employees. And so by the time they're starting to write articles, like, we put them in a position to be successful. Like, we really believe in setting up our employees for success. The way that you set your employees up for failure is to just hire them and say good luck, and then be mad at them when they turn in the work. And so that's kind of the approach that we take with it.
So look, question from Tim. He's saying his niche is very heavily policed. He's not allowed to say certain things about his product. For example, phone radiation. Can't say that phone radiation causes harm, and he's not allowed to say that his product fixes that problem, even though he can prove both things. How could he turn that to his advantage? Have you got any inspiration for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely tough. I mean, this is not a one-size-fits-all model. I mean, there's definitely, if you're talking about, splitting atoms or something, and it's something really complicated, it might be over and above what people can do in this space. That's going to be a challenging niche. And so, if there's ancillary things that people can be writing about in that niche, so if people are worried about radiation from phone stuff, there might be ancillary topics you can write about that people have interest in similar to that. And I'd have to go do some keyword research. I know there's going to be things I just can't come up with something off the top of my mind that's intelligent, but the people that are worried about that type of thing are also worried about other things that you might be able to write about. And yeah, you got to be very careful, obviously, about making claims that this product, fixes something. We have the same thing with our products. We have FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S., registered products, and we're definitely under the same restrictions. And so we communicate what those are to our team and make sure that they aren't crossing those lines. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some fringe niches out there that are way more difficult to do this strategy with than others.
Thank you very much. Okay, question from Sandor. So he's saying he understands the value of review articles, but what sort of products do you review before you launch your own products? Are you reviewing the competitors that you plan to compete against in future? And where do you then recommend those competitors and take affiliate commission before you actually produce and launch your own product?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's actually, maybe I should have gone in a little bit more detail about it when I was talking about it, because it's probably the most important takeaway, of this whole thing, which is, ultimately the goal here is to sell stuff online, right? Like for us, I've been an affiliate marketer and blog guy in the past as like a full-time job, or like that was my business. And that's not what I want to do here. Like the idea is not to like go back to doing that. The idea is to use those strategies to supplement and grow my e-commerce business, which I think is a better business model long-term. And so, how can you set yourself up for success? Well, you have products that you think you want to develop. Like that already exists, right? You already think you're going to develop, I'm looking around my desk. I want to develop water bottles. I want to develop pens. I want to develop chapstick, and I want to develop iPhone cases. I got these 4 product ideas that I want to go develop. Well, before just like developing them and not knowing how the hell I'm going to compete in the really competitive water bottle category or the really competitive pen category, it'd be a lot better to write review articles about these 4 different products, buy all the competitors' water bottles, buy all the competitors' pens, buy all the competitors' chapsticks, really evaluate them, understand what's good and bad about them, put them through their paces. In the case of tactical shovels, like we'll go outdoors and like dig holes and go camping and actually use the products, see which ones hold up, which ones break, which ones have cool little features on them, which ones feel more solid, and then write a review article about them. Again, it's going to be way better than any other review article out there, because like no one else is really taking the time to do that stuff. And then eventually you're going to rank, and all these articles that you're recommending, these products, these competitors' products, have Amazon affiliate links in them. And so when you start to rank and you start to then get sales, that you have the data. Like data is like one of the most powerful things that there is in business. And so that you're ranking, that you're getting eyeballs to the page. That you're generating sales from this review article. Like people that are coming and typing in these keywords are actually coming to the page and actually buying products. Now's the time to develop the water bottle or the iPhone case or whatever it is. Like go develop it now. Go make a better mousetrap, or at least as good of a product as anything else that's out there. And now you can recommend your product as the #1 thing at the top, and put your affiliate link on there, and you're going to start getting sales basically immediately, because like if they're already buying the other products, they're going to buy your product. These people are like kind of lemmings. They're just making a search, they're clicking the #1 result or your recommendation. They're going to read the article. You're going to convince them that the product's the best, but they're going to believe you. Like they trust in what you're doing. And this is also why it's important to have a disclosure.
Because you've got that data from the affiliate links, and there's affiliate links to this many people clicked this one, this many people click that one, and also after they clicked, how many and if they didn't buy it, maybe they bought something else. But again, you see that through the affiliate links. And
absolutely,
just say it back a different way, it is cheaper and easier and possibly quicker to create articles and to produce content and to start proving to generate traffic than it is to actually produce and build the physical products and end up with a warehouse full of stock you can't sell.
Exactly.
That's why this makes so much sense.
In the current strategy right now, if you aren't doing this, is to like do a bunch of giveaways or do like search, find, buy campaigns or rebate key or just a bunch of other like gray or black hat stuff, right? It's just you're trying to game the system. This is not gaming the system. This is like a legitimate. Maybe it is gaming the system in some way. I mean, I guess you can still say that, but
well, the internet.
What's that?
Gaming the system of life and the internet.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're stuck in the cards for you in a white hat way. I mean, this is definitely not a black hat strategy. So like, this is never going to get banned. You know, and everything else right now that's happening, like it's whack-a-mole. You're constantly having to to deal with, when is it going to stop, or when is Amazon going to shut my account down? Like, I don't want those emails. Like, I don't want to wake up one day and find out that your account's been suspended. Like, that's my biggest fear. And so we just make sure that we do everything in our power not to get that email.
I'm going to answer one quickly myself, because I think just go through quite a lot of questions coming through. Question from Desmond: if you use other people's videos in your blog, aren't you likely to be infringing their IP or copyright? Well, no, because if you go to YouTube, you can just embed that YouTube video on your site. As long as it's clear it's a YouTube video, then you're just helping to promote them. So that's good for them. It's good for you because people are watching it whilst on your site. I mean, we're not saying to take someone's video, re-edit it, and cut out the bits you want and make it look like your own. But on your page, you can use somebody else's video, and there are ways to do that with the proper attribution. If I'm wrong, there, Mike, tell me. I think that's
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, and we credit. We kind of go out of our way a lot of situations to credit people as well. I mean, we don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so because we want to treat people like we like to be treated. So we want people to use our content in the same manner, whether it's ecom crews or tacticals or whatever, but we want them to just mention us, and hopefully some percentage of those people will go to that blog and kind of check it out.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing you can do is you can just tell them that I've posted your video on this page, and if you'd like to give us a shout out, then you can do, and kind of try and get them to turn that sharing into some kind of proactive relationship with them. That's going to be powerful for you later.
Absolutely.
Let's look. Question from Kev: do you have any advice about writing blogs in Shopify? Would you recommend using a third-party page builder or to create richer blogs, or is that worse for SEO?
We get this question a lot. It's actually kind of long-winded, but if it's best to just kind of keep things on your Shopify blog and not try to create a website or a WordPress website subdomain. And in terms of should you use a page builder? Yes, because it'll make it look better. There's Zipify, there's Shogun. You just kind of realize that you're signing up for a permanent drug dealer. It's once you start writing pages or using pages with those templates, it's very hard to ever get rid of them, and it's $50 a month or whatever. But ColorIt, which is the site that we sold earlier this year that does really well with SEO. I mean, we worked really hard with our SEO on that. And IceWraps, which we still currently own and does really well with SEO, are all done on Shopify as a blog platform, and they rank quite well. We are not using a page builder for that. We've kind of just gotten good at HTML and do it on our own. But if you aren't technical or you want a more of a WYSIWYG experience, certainly using a page builder is a great idea. Tactical.com is built on WordPress and is just a freestanding site.
Okay. Question from Will, which I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but he's saying that he's an English company, but they sell well in France and Germany. Do you have a strategy or a process for multilingual content, and how is best to arrange that and organize that?
Yeah, this is a sore subject for me because we did this 6-figure initiative to do multilingual stuff back in my old company. The affiliate marketing company I was doing was actually online poker affiliate stuff, and we had a lot of customers in France and Spain, Brazil and Portugal, so Portuguese, Spanish, French, and we decided to hire translation teams and translate all the content, and it was a huge waste of time, and even just even bigger waste of money. I don't know exactly what the problem was, and it still I think exists to this day, but it seems difficult to first of all to write the content, to translate it in a way that is actually 100% native, right? And so I can really nitpick anybody that's written any article that clearly their first language wasn't English or it was translated in some way, and people like really look down upon that. At least English speakers do. Native English speakers, or at least Americans, let's just put it that way, and maybe Canadians, but like there's like this superiority complex that they have, just like English should be like the world language, and it's just kind of screwed up because like you grew up, and I've been lucky enough to travel the world, and for me, like I'm just like blown away like at how impressive it is when someone's like trilingual, or you go over to anywhere in Europe and like people just speak all these different languages, and they're pretty accepting of the fact that like you're not going to be 100% perfectly native in every language. And so like when we did this project, I think that maybe similar thing happens with French readers or Spanish readers. Plus you also lose some of like the local idiosyncrasies that are really hard to understand if you aren't like in that local custom. They're just kind of like completely above your head. You don't even realize it, and again, I think I appreciate this more now just because I've been to 54 countries and spent a lot of my time traveling the world. And, we're talking to UK here in this audience, like even though it's the same language, there's like a lot of like little differences between the two countries, like a lot. And even in just writing in English, it's hard to understand that and really have the same impact. Like because like people are patriotic wherever they're from. And so like, if you're from the UK and you're reading this like dumbass Americans like take on, the same thing, you're going to have that thought process, and it just doesn't convert quite as well. And so I don't know, I think the long-winded answer of it is like it probably just isn't worth it. Like it's probably better to just write more content in your native language than to try to do more in other languages. It's just kind of like where I've settled on this. And this is just one man's opinion. I might have someone else. I'd love to debate this topic with someone else that's been through this, but we've tried really hard. And I don't like to give up on anything, and couldn't quite make it work. So
actually, I have a question that I'd like to jump in with. And two questions actually. Number one, for infographics, do you have any favorite tools that you use that make it a super quick effort?
I mean, you can use Canva to do some of the basic stuff, but we have a full-time graphic designers on our team as well.
Okay.
And so for me, the graphic content is like just as important as the written content when it comes to this. So like we kind of have like a 2-for-1. So it's like for every 2 writers, we try to hire 1 graphic designer to go along and kind of build a pod or whatever of people that kind of work together. But when we're planning out articles, like a part of that plan is all the graphic content that goes along with it, and some is easier than others. I mean, like I can still share my screen here. Let me stop sharing my screen because I need to get into a different window here. So I'm going to disable screen sharing.
Mm-hmm. You've done that.
I'm going to share this, and then do you see this new tab?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to do like IceWraps shoulder, and so some of the articles we'll put together, some of the images will be more, I guess, intense or complicated than others, and hopefully I can quickly find example. But here's an example of like, here's an article that we've written on IceWraps. Our shoulder stuff does really, really well. And so here we've embedded someone's content, like I've talked about. We've put together the 6 most common shoulder injuries. Like this took some time. I mean, like this is all original like artwork and stuff that we're putting together. But this stuff does really well and gets shared. And so they're planning this out. Like, so the content writer is writing the content and the words, because the graphic designer is not a writer. Mm-hmm. The graphic designer is putting together these images.
Yeah.
And we're not taking stock photos, and we're doing this stuff from scratch because we want the credibility from that. Here again is more content embedded. Again, super long form article, more content embedded. Think about how difficult it is to rank for shoulder pain or rotator cuff and things like that. And we're ranking for that stuff. But again, here at the end of the article is our products that we recommend. And these links like make a massive difference. Like this product here, we actually like just ran out and got it back in stock on, but like it was a top 10 product in cold packs on Amazon up until last week when we ran out, and it'll bounce back. It's number 36 again already. But these are super competitive niches that brand names are ranking for. And it's, you can see here where we ran out for just a couple of days. We couldn't have anticipated selling. We went from selling 40 to 50 of these a day before this strategy to now selling 150 a day. And so we just weren't prepared for that kind of increase in sales. And so we did run out of inventory. But you can kind of just see there the type of level of graphics that we're putting together. And so you can see it's kind of a partnership with the graphics team and the content writer. And so tools like Canva work, but like if you want to do it at the level I'm talking about, you really need to up your game.
Yeah. And my second question was, how does your email strategy tend to dovetail into this? I know that might be slightly off topic, but it's just...
No, I think it's actually very on topic and very important. We're huge proponents of email. There's a lot of email is dead topic or people talking about email is dead out there. 52% of our revenue on ColorIt.com came from email. 52%. So I think one of the reasons why it sold for so much and so quickly, we really had our email strategy down. But with Tactical, we haven't really deployed our email strategy yet because it does take time, and we've been working on getting the content up first. But this quarter and next quarter, we have it's our first multi-quarter initiative that we've done in a long time. We've been working really hard on solving this problem for Tactical. And so again, I think that there's there's only so much time as a small business. You got to focus on one thing at a time. So we focus on getting the content there first, getting the traffic. Now we're really going to focus on every single person that comes to the site. We want your email address. And so what we did is we broke up our site into 3 buckets. It's like prepping, survivalism, and I forgot the third bucket now, actually. And so each bucket has a lead magnet, like a really strong lead magnet. And so if you're, on an article that pertains to prepping, there'll be a prepping lead magnet there that will encourage you to give us your email address. Also, we'll be doing like giveaways and other things to get people's email addresses for those types of products. If they visited our page, they're going to get hit with Facebook ads to encourage them to enter giveaways or get the lead magnet and give us their email address if they didn't do it at the moment that it's there. And so there's 3 definitive buckets that have 30 email sequences that go along with them. And so they're not going to just get on our email list, but they're going to get a laundry list of emails that pertains to the topic that they signed up for. And hopefully the idea is, to provide them lots of value. It's not a sales sequence. It's just to get them to train them to open up our emails and to look forward to getting our content and to find value in our content. And if you can develop that relationship, eventually you can sell them something. And a part of that, there is free plus shipping offers, which is my favorite type of offer to put in those types of email sequences. So we've developed products specifically for free plus shipping offers for Tactical, for Tac9er. So we have this credit card multi-tool and a flashlight that are perfect free plus shipping offers. They're small, light, easy to ship products under 1 pound, half a kilo. And in the United States, at least, those things can go first class mail, and they're incredibly easy to ship and cheap to ship. And so that was the whole strategy behind it. We developed the product first, knowing that we're going to eventually do this. But email is an incredibly important component. But I think that the end of the long-winded answer is it's probably the thing that you want to invest the time in after you've already invested time in content and there is some traffic. You start putting together really elaborate email sequences that 3 people are going to read, and you're going to burn yourself out and not want to do it. We now have thousands of people coming to our site a day. Now it makes sense. And because again, the worst thing you can do, the absolute worst thing you can do with email is to get someone on your email list and then not email them for 6 months, which is what most people do. And then when you do finally decide, you know what, I better send out an email, they don't know who the hell you are anymore. They've forgotten who tactical.com even is. I didn't sign up for this. They hit this, spam, this person, and now your email address is blocked. Now what did you do for yourself? And so don't do it until you're really ready to put the effort into it.
Okay, thank you. That was great. Well, I guess an onward question would be, so how do you warm them up again if you have let them go a bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's another tough topic. But in general, you don't want to email the whole list all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you can segment them in some way that who the more sticky customer is. And so the way you could do that with an e-commerce site is like only email someone who's purchased on your list in the last 30 days, for instance, first. And that way, the email is going out to someone who's recently interacted with your brand. And you can, if you're using something like Klaviyo, it's very easy to do this. You could make a segment, give me all the people who have purchased from my site in the last 30 days, and then send them your newsletter. And the chances of them opening it are going to be pretty high because they just bought from you and they're going to interact with you. Do that first, and then do like the 30 to 60 day, and then like 60 to 120 day, and slowly email people who are. But like if you do them all at once, like you're going to get flagged by Google, by Gmail, by Yahoo, by MSN, and your email address will forever be in like purgatory. It's like impossible to get it out. Another thing you can do is use a tool called GlockApps, GLOCK, kind of like the gun. I don't know why they call it this, but glockapps.com. It's a really cheap tool that allows you to send your email to a bunch of seed email addresses, like 30 seed email addresses, and it'll tell you exactly where it's landing. And so like if your email is landing in spam or in promotions, you know it before you even start sending it out to a larger group. Yeah. And you can tweak your email by changing certain words or rearranging the email in a different way, having less images. There's all kinds of suggestions that they'll give you on how to optimize the email, and you can resend it. And eventually, if you can get that email, at least with GlockApps, to end up in the inbox, then you have something that's going to work to the greater audience.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Are there any more questions?
There are two last questions, I think.
Okay.
Well, three, two which are clear, and one which I think is a segue for us. But from Roberto. So the first one is, what kind of training do you offer to your writers, and how do you have particular criteria you use when deciding who to hire?
Yeah. So we have like I said, it's about a month-long training.
I got the door. I've just got to go. Can you do the other Roberto question?
Yeah.
So the training is about a month long, and the one third-party course we have them go through is called SEOthatworks.com. It's Brian Dean's course. It's easier to give someone a full-length course about this than anything else, and it kind of goes through a lot of things that we talked about here. And it was just easier for me to like buy someone else's course, someone that I is a friend of mine that I trust. Then try to put that together myself, because it's just a lot of work. And so the stuff that we go through on our own is kind of similar to what's in this presentation, but we have obviously someone there in the Philippines kind of hand holding through that process. And then the types of people we're looking for people, like my favorite people are people that have like their own blog. They're already writing for fun. Our lead, for instance, when I read her personal blog, like I was engaged and liked the content, I wanted to read more, even though it was about something I didn't really care about. I was like, this is well written. Like I like it. She obviously likes writing anyway, because she has this personal, and it wasn't like she was prolific with it. She didn't write every single day. It was just, she had a few things here and there. And she also, her previous jobs were with a local newspaper or magazine, and so people that really enjoy writing is important, and that you can read some of their writing samples, anonymously or away from the interview and like it yourself.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
And then the other question, again from Roberto, was, so what other kind of, this is leading into the webinar that you wanted to do. So confidentially, you wanted to do a webinar that's all about how you've built your teams over time, and how you hire people and how you train them, right?
Yeah, I have another webinar that I do. I've been doing a lot because people are so interested in how to hire a team. But Yeah.
And I wanted to hear about this more. So I should admit that my background is hiring and training and recruiting and developing talent. So I denigrate that subject down to the bottom drawer, because I think after 26 years, I know a few things about it. But I shouldn't do that for the benefit of the community. So here's the thing. Why don't we get you back to come and talk about that other subject?
Sure.
Would you like to?
Yeah.
Cool, because some of these questions are leading into, oh my God, Mike, how do you do this? It's obvious that you've got an amazing system and also an amazing business to be able to support the build-up of an amazing system and people and processes that you've got.
Everything that happens is because of our team. Like, I mean, I'm doing very little of this. I mean, almost none of this at this point. The only thing that I'm responsible for, I'm a big fan of the book Traction. Highly recommend reading that book. If you haven't, like, just stop what you're doing and go read it. It fixed like almost all the problems I had in my business life that I could never quite figure out, like, what the hell why these problems kept on persisting over many years. And so, you know, my goal or my responsibility is to set like a 5-year, 3-year, 1-year plan for our business and make sure that everyone knows what that is. And then, you know, break that down into quarterly chunks. So, you know, every quarter I'm working on you know, what the team's going to work on, but like it all fits into our overall plan. And so, you know, the things that we're doing right now, like in some senses, like might not make any sense, because like why the hell would you go do whatever that is? But a year later, it makes sense because it, like, the puzzle pieces fit together. And so, kind of like we're just talking about with the email marketing concept, you know, that piece plugs in eventually into it, and eventually, you know, we have a complete site that does everything that we want. But yeah, I mean, it all stems from our team, and I think we have a good talk about that. So I'm happy to come
Cool.
do that in a couple months.
That would be awesome. Great. So I think we've covered most of the questions here. There are probably one or two that we haven't, but I have to say, Mike, that was as I expected, actually. So my expectations were high. I delivered. How's that?
Perfect. I wish I could get my wife to say the same thing. Her expectations are low, and I still fail her.
Oh, dear. Well, we're probably not talking about quite the same thing, but
No.
anyway. You probably want to buy a house. That would please your wife, I'm sure.
We're working on that. We're closing hopefully on the house in 6 days.
Oh, well done. That's awesome. But also come back and talk to us about the nomad lifestyle that you've led for the last year. That's really interesting.
That's talk about things that have been impacted by COVID. The nomad lifestyle is definitely been impacted.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you have kids as well? They still growing up?
No kids.
No kids. Okay, so that's a bit easier when you don't have a big brood to look
I'm
around.
still a kid myself, so it's yeah.
Cool. Well, anyway, I think it was fascinating. I'm sure everybody here really enjoyed it, and we'd love to have you back. And so we will.
Awesome. No worries. Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure. If you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. You can just email like support@ecomcrew.com if you got any questions, and it'll work its way over to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for anybody that's
really
on the webinar.
Yep. That's really kind of you. Thank you very much, because you must be a very busy guy.
So a little bit, yeah.
Appreciate it.
I have another one of these to do in 22 minutes. I'm going to go rest my voice, grab a bite to eat, and look forward to coming back on and doing this with you guys in a couple months when you have the next opening.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for being here today. It was awesome to see you. And I'm now going to end the webinar, and it'll stop it for everyone. Okay. Bye.
Nice. Bye, guys.
See you soon.